Beyond the pyramids, the overlooked lives of ancient Egyptians, sand, sickness, and survival. Imagine, if you will, waking with the first pale light of dawn in a small, mud brick home. This is not the grand palace of a pharaoh, adorned with precious metals and vibrant murals, nor the richly painted, silent tomb of a noble, awaiting eternity. This is the dwelling of an ordinary Egyptian, perhaps a farmer, a simple structure built from the very earth it stands upon, baked hard by the sun. Its walls offer a modest shelter from the elements, cool in the deepest hours of night, but already beginning to absorb the coming day's warmth. Your bed is a simple mat woven from reeds, resting directly on the packed earth floor, a surface that breathes with the faint, earthy scent of damp clay and the dry, mineral tang of the surrounding landscape. The air, even at this early, hushed hour, carries the faint scent of dust, omnipresent and finely textured, mingling with the subtle, sweet aroma of brewing grain, and the distant, ever-present promise of heat that will soon envelop the land. As you stir from slumber, the sounds of the village slowly begin to unfurl, a gentle awakening symphony. The distant bray of a donkey, a resonant, almost melancholic call, cuts through the quiet. Soon, the soft murmur of human voices begins to rise, a low hum that speaks of neighbors preparing for their day. Perhaps you can discern the rhythmic thud of grain being pounded in a nearby courtyard, the steady, purposeful cadence echoing the timeless nature of daily sustenance. Your day, like countless days before, and countless days yet to come, is meticulously dictated by the sun's unwavering journey across the sky. From its radiant emergence over the eastern desert, to its fiery descent in the west, and by the relentless, life-sustaining demands of the fertile land. There is a deeply ingrained predictability to this rhythm, a comforting certainty in the repetitive cycle of labor and rest, guided by the very cosmos. Step outside into the nascent warmth, the gentle caress of the rising sun on your skin. The fertile black land, a deep, rich expanse of topsoil, deposited year after year by the benevolent annual inundation of the Nile, stretches before you. It is a vibrant, verdant contrast to the stark, unforgiving red land of the desert beyond, a realm of barren rock formations, endless sand dunes, and the whispered secrets of eternity. This stark visual dichotomy, black against red, life against desolation, was not merely a geographical feature, but a fundamental concept deeply embedded in the Egyptian worldview. Your primary task, the absolute foundation of your very existence, and that of your family, is agriculture. You might be diligently cultivating barley or emmer wheat, the two fundamental cereal grains that would be meticulously ground into the coarse, sustaining bread that formed the cornerstone of every meal, and skillfully brewed into the thick, nutritious beer that was both beverage and vital source of calories. The tools at your disposal are simple, yet profoundly effective. A sturdy wooden plow, often pulled by a pair of patient oxen, to break and turn the soil. A sturdy hoe, crafted for repetitive, back-breaking work, to break stubborn clods of earth and create furrows, and a sharp sickle, its curved blade glinting in the sun, for the precise work of harvesting. Each movement you make, each repetitive gesture is a silent testament to physical endurance, repeated day after day, season after season. Under the unyielding intensity of the Egyptian sun, it is a dance with the earth, a collaboration born of necessity and tradition. Consider, for a moment, the pivotal event that governed all life along the Nile, the annual flood, the inundation of the river. For the modern mind, accustomed to managed waterways and flood warnings, a flood often signifies disaster, destruction, and loss. But for the ancient Egyptian, it was precisely the opposite. It was a divine blessing, the very lifeblood of their civilization, a miraculous renewal you would watch, with a complex mix of anticipation for the bounty it promised, and a subtle trepidation for the temporary disruption it brought. As the river began its majestic swell, slowly, inexorably, it would overflow its banks, a vast sheet of life-giving water spreading across the floodplain, depositing rich, black silt onto the fields, a natural, annual fertilization that negated the need for complex soil management. This period of high water, the Akut season, was a time of temporary respite from the intense labor in the fields. It offered a crucial opportunity for other tasks, mending tools, repairing mud brick homes that might have suffered during the previous dry season, or engaging in communal projects. But it was also a period of intense vigilance, ensuring your village and precious property were protected from the rising waters, perhaps by reinforcing small dikes or moving livestock to higher ground. Once the mighty waters gradually receded, leaving behind a glistening, dark canvas, the race against time began. This was the Pert season, the emergence of the land. It was a furious, concerted effort to plant the precious seeds in the newly enriched, still damp soil before the ground hardened again under the relentless sun, ensuring the success of the vital harvest to come. Life, then, was an intricate, constant negotiation with the environment, a perpetual dance with its rhythms and challenges. The pervasive dust and sand were inescapable companions, an intrinsic part of the very air you breathed. Carried by the desert winds, they settled on everything, on your skin, on your simple linen garments, finding their way into food, into the crevices of your home, and even into your breath, a constant fine grit. This ever-present atmospheric element profoundly shaped daily routines, simple acts, such as carefully covering food to protect it from airborne particles, or the constant need for personal hygiene, rudimentary as it was, involving perhaps a splash from a water jar or a rub with fine sand for exfoliation, were not luxuries, but necessities, part of the ingrained daily practice of existence. Beyond the immediate, physically demanding toil of daily life, the unseen, insidious threat of disease loomed large, an invisible adversary often far more formidable and relentless than any human foe. Clean drinking water, as we know it today, purified and easily accessible, was an unimaginable luxury. The Nile, while undeniably life-giving and the source of all prosperity, also carried parasites, bacteria, and viruses within its waters, especially after the flood when stagnant pools formed. Common ailments, easily diagnosed and treated with modern medicine, could be utterly devastating in ancient Egypt. Bilharzia, also known as schistosomiasis, contracted from microscopic parasites released by freshwater snails living in the irrigation canals, was endemic. It caused chronic pain, internal bleeding, and a debilitating lethargy, slowly eroding strength and shortening lives. Eye infections, such as trachoma, exacerbated by the constant dust, the abundance of flies, and the lack of proper hygiene, were tragically widespread, often leading to agonizing discomfort and, in many cases, permanent blindness. Life expectancy was considerably shorter than in the modern era, perhaps averaging only into the late 30s or early 40s. The loss of children to illness, from diarrheal diseases to respiratory infections, was a tragically common and heartbreaking experience, a quiet sorrow carried in countless hearts, a testament to the fragile nature of life in a world without antibiotics or vaccines. Yet, despite these profound hardships and the constant presence of potential suffering, life was not without its deeply ingrained rhythms and simple, profound pleasures. The construction of your humble home, though built from readily available mud brick, often included thoughtful design elements suited to the climate. A crucial feature was frequently a rooftop area, sometimes accessed by an external staircase. This elevated space provided a slightly cooler, more airy place to sleep on sweltering summer nights, allowing you to escape the trapped heat of the interior. From this vantage point, you could gaze at the vast, unchanging, star-strewn sky, a cosmic tapestry that held deep religious significance and offered a sense of boundless wonder. Food, though basic by modern standards, was prepared with care and skill, transforming simple ingredients into sustaining meals. Flatbreads, made from the barley or emmer you cultivated, were quickly baked on hot stones or in simple ovens, often retaining a delightful chewiness. sturdy stews of lentils or other readily available vegetables, perhaps seasoned with wild herbs, provided warmth and nourishment. And when fortune allowed, fish from the Nile, a readily available protein source, would be caught and prepared. And of course, the ubiquitous beer, a thick, often cloudy, and highly nutritious brew, was not merely an alcoholic beverage but a fundamental dietary staple. Safer to drink than untreated river water, it provided calories, vitamins, and hydration, and was a central, comforting part of nearly every meal. The social structure of ancient Egypt was undeniably rigid, a pyramid mirroring the monuments themselves. Yet within this framework, it also offered a profound sense of stability and belonging. You were, for the most part, born into your station, whether farmer, fisherman, potter, or craftsman, and that was, in all likelihood, where you would remain throughout your life. Social mobility was exceptionally rare, a testament to the deeply ingrained hierarchy. At the very apex of the societal pyramid stood the pharaoh, a distant, almost mythical figure, perceived not merely as a ruler, but as a living god on earth, the embodiment of divine order, responsible for maintaining truth, justice, and cosmic harmony. Yet, despite his seemingly remote divinity, the pharaoh's power profoundly touched your daily life through the inexorable demands of taxation. A significant portion of your hard-won harvest, perhaps a third or more of your carefully cultivated grain, was meticulously measured, collected, and sent to royal granaries or temple storehouses. This was not viewed as an arbitrary burden, but as a reciprocal duty, contributing to the greater good of the kingdom and the sustenance of the divine order. Furthermore, your life could be interrupted by the possibility of corvée labor. Imagine being called away from your own fields, perhaps for weeks or even months at a time, to contribute your raw strength and labor to the pharaoh's grand, eternal projects, the quarrying of massive stone blocks from distant cliffs, the arduous hauling of these colossal stones across the desert plains, or the painstaking construction and maintenance of vital irrigation canals. This was undeniably a duty, often physically arduous and demanding, but for many, it was also a profound source of communal pride, a direct and tangible contribution to the eternal glory of Egypt and the divine legacy of the pharaohs. It forged a collective identity, a shared experience of monumental endeavor. Your spiritual world was not a separate realm of belief, but was instead deeply, inextricably interwoven with every single aspect of your daily existence, as fundamental as the air you breathed and the food you ate. The gods were not distant, abstract entities residing in a far-off heaven, but active, potent participants in your life, their influence visible in the sun's warmth, the river's flood, and the cycles of birth and death. You understood, instinctively, that the majestic sun god Ra brought the life-giving warmth and light absolutely essential for your crops to thrive and for life itself to persist. You recognized that Osiris, the resurrected god, governed the miraculous fertility of the Nile and held the ultimate key to the afterlife, promising renewal beyond earthly existence. And you turned to Isis, the powerful and compassionate goddess, for protection, healing, and solace in times of need. Simple offerings might be left at a small, humble shrine within your home, a pinch of incense, a small loaf of bread, a fresh flower, a quiet, personal gesture of reverence. A silent prayer might be whispered for a good harvest, for the health and vitality of your beloved family, or for a safe and prosperous passage into the complex, beautiful afterlife. Death itself was a pervasive presence, a constant reminder of life's fragility. Yet the elaborate funerary rituals, carefully observed traditions, passed down through generations, and the deeply held, profound belief in a vibrant, eternal afterlife offered an immense comfort, a pervasive sense of hope. It was a solemn promise that this earthly struggle, with all its attendant hardships and fleeting joys, was but a temporary passage, a preparation for an eternal and blissful existence in the field of reeds, a reflection of the earthly paradise, only perfect, This segment concludes our quiet immersion into the meticulous daily routines and profound spiritual landscape of an ordinary ancient Egyptian, as the phantom dust of their long-forgotten chores gently settles around us, and the distant calls of the ancient marketplace soften into the echoes of time. We prepare to shift our focus from the grounded reality of the common person deeply connected to the earth and the river. We will next turn our attention to the elevated and often turbulent world of royalty, specifically to the remarkable story of a woman who dared to challenge the deepest traditions of her time and, through sheer will and strategic brilliance, seized the very throne of Egypt. Hatshepsut, the woman who became pharaoh. From the quiet toil and humble rhythms of the farmer's field, we now ascend, with the gentlest of transitions, to the very pinnacle of ancient Egyptian society, to the gilded, echoing halls where destiny was not merely accepted as fate, but actively, boldly shaped. Our quiet gaze turns to a figure of truly remarkable ambition, profound intelligence, and unwavering resilience. Hatshepsut, a woman who, against the deeply ingrained traditions and expectations of her millennia-old civilization, not only ascended to the throne of Pharaoh, but ruled Egypt not merely as a temporary regent, but as a full, crowned king, a sovereign in her own right. Her extraordinary story begins, as many royal narratives do, in the very heart of power, within the opulent confines of the royal palace. Born into the powerful and illustrious 18th dynasty, a period of immense prosperity and expansion for Egypt, Hatshepsut was the legitimate daughter of Pharaoh Thutmose I and Queen Ahmose. From her earliest days, she was raised amidst unparalleled privilege, surrounded by the finest tutors, immersed in the intricate world of court politics, and educated in the religious rites and administrative complexities of the land. This upbringing undoubtedly cultivated a sharp intellect and a keen understanding of governance. As was customary for royal succession to solidify dynastic lines, she married her half-brother, Thutmose II. Their union produced a daughter, Nefer, but no male heir who would ensure a direct patrilineal succession. When Thutmose II's relatively short reign came to an end, Hatshepsut found herself in a precarious, yet undeniably powerful, position. She became regent for her young stepson, Thutmose III, who was still a mere child, too young to rule in his own capacity. In the conventional course of events, the expectation would have been for her to guide the young king from behind the scenes, nurturing him until he came of age to assume full responsibility. But Hatshepsut, as history would reveal, was not a woman content with merely holding power indirectly. Within a few short years of Thutmose II's death, she took an unprecedented and utterly audacious step. She declared herself pharaoh. Imagine, for a moment, the sheer force of will, the political courage, and the astute maneuvering required to defy centuries, indeed millennia, of established tradition. Egypt had certainly seen powerful queens, influential queen mothers, and royal women who exerted significant authority, but never before had a female pharaoh reigned in her own right, assuming the full panoply of titles and the sacred regalia traditionally and exclusively reserved for a male king. To legitimize her extraordinary claim to the dual crown of Upper and Lower Egypt, Hatshepsut employed a masterful and intricate blend of religious appeal, carefully crafted propaganda, and astute political maneuvering. She commissioned extensive reliefs and inscriptions on temple walls, and stelae that meticulously depicted her divine birth, a powerful narrative asserting that the supreme state god Amun-Ra himself had miraculously fathered her. These artistic depictions show Amun-Ra in the guise of her earthly father, Thutmose I, impregnating her mother. This was a direct, spiritual legitimization, elevating her status far beyond that of a mere mortal ruler. Furthermore, to visually embody her kingly role, statues were painstakingly carved depicting her in full traditional pharaonic garb. These statues often portrayed her with a broad, powerful physique, wearing the Khat headcloth or the Nemes headdress, and crucially, an artificial false beard, the distinctive and masculine symbol of kingship. This was not an attempt to deny her femininity, which was clearly acknowledged in other contexts, but rather a strategic choice to align herself unequivocally with the established and recognizable iconography of pharaonic power, visually demonstrating her absolute fitness to rule within a political and religious system fundamentally designed for male monarchs. She adopted the full, majestic fivefold royal titulary, the string of names and epithets that defined a pharaoh, consistently using masculine pronouns and epithets, further solidifying her royal identity. Her reign, a period spanning over 2 remarkable decades, was characterized by a profound sense of peace and unparalleled prosperity for Egypt. Unlike many pharaohs who frequently prioritized aggressive military campaigns and territorial expansion, Hatshepsut strategically chose to prioritize economic growth and an ambitious program of monumental building projects. Her strategic focus on trade routes and internal development brought immense wealth and stability to the land. Her most celebrated and enduring achievement stands today as the spectacular mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari, a breathtaking and innovative terraced structure. It rises gracefully from the desert floor, carved directly into the imposing cliffs on the west bank of the Nile at Luxor. Designed with an architectural brilliance that seamlessly reflects and integrates with the natural landscape around it. This magnificent temple was not merely a place of worship or a tomb. It was a grand statement in enduring stone, meticulously crafted to proclaim her power, her piety, and her eternal connection to the gods, a silent, powerful testament to her unparalleled vision and determination. Under her astute direction and careful patronage, trade flourished as never before, opening up new avenues of prosperity for the Egyptian economy. She famously dispatched a grand and ambitious expedition to the land of Punt, a mysterious, distant, and semi-legendary region, believed by many historians and archaeologists to be located somewhere along the coast of modern-day Eritrea or Somalia. Imagine, for a moment, the immense logistical complexities involved in organizing such a momentous voyage. The meticulous preparation of a fleet of large seagoing vessels, the careful gathering of a vast array of goods for trade, glittering gold, precious electrum, fragrant frankincense, rare exotic animals, and most importantly, living trees to be transplanted back in Egypt for temple rituals. The unparalleled success of this expedition brought immense wealth and invaluable resources back to Egypt, further cementing Hatshepsut's formidable reputation as a powerful, effective, and divinely favored ruler. Vivid and detailed reliefs within her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari meticulously depict this extraordinary journey, showcasing the strange and wondrous landscapes encountered, the exotic goods acquired, and the thriving, mutually beneficial trade relations she skillfully established with the people of Punt. Hatshepsut's political acumen and administrative prowess were undeniable. She meticulously surrounded herself with a cadre of highly loyal and capable officials, such as Senemet, her chief architect and trusted confidant, who played a significant role in her building projects. She managed the sprawling and complex Egyptian bureaucracy with exceptional skill, ensuring efficiency and control across the vast kingdom. Yet, despite her undeniable successes and the period of unparalleled stability, she brought to Egypt the very unconventional nature of her rule. As a female pharaoh, cast a long and unsettling shadow. After her death, and during the subsequent sole reign of her stepson, Thutmose III, a perplexing and concerted effort was systematically made to erase her from the historical record. Her images were methodically defaced, her distinctive cartouches, the oval enclosures containing her royal names, were meticulously chipped away from monuments, and many of her magnificent statues were deliberately toppled, shattered, and buried, often in remote, forgotten caches. For many centuries, her name was largely absent from the official king lists, relegated to a profound and perplexing obscurity, a deliberate omission that rendered her reign almost unknown. The precise reasons behind this damnatio memoria, deliberate condemnation and erasure of memory remain a subject of intense debate among historians and Egyptologists. Was it a vengeful act by Thutmose III, perhaps seeking to reassert the traditional male line of succession and eradicate the unsettling memory of a powerful female pharaoh who might inspire future challenges to the male-dominated kingship? Or was it, perhaps, a more pragmatic, politically motivated move, designed to ensure a smooth and unquestioned transition of power to his own son and future male heirs, preventing any lingering ambiguity or precedent for female rule? Some scholars suggest that the erasure was not immediate, but occurred later in Thutmose III's reign, perhaps as he sought to cement his own legacy and that of his son, and that the defacement was not driven by personal animosity, but by a desire for dynastic purity. Regardless of the precise motivation, the systematic erasure meant that for thousands of years, the remarkable and groundbreaking story of Hatshepsut remained largely untold, silenced, and buried beneath the shifting sands of time, a monumental absence in the historical narrative. It was only through the tireless, meticulous work of modern archaeologists and dedicated Egyptologists, patiently deciphering fragmented inscriptions, piecing together shattered statues from hidden caches, and re-examining long-ignored texts, that Hatshepsut's extraordinary legacy was slowly, painstakingly brought back into the light. Her story serves as a powerful and enduring reminder that history is often far more complex, its figures more nuanced, and its official narratives often incomplete or deliberately manipulated. She was a pharaoh of extraordinary will, who, through quiet determination, profound intelligence, and strategic brilliance, carved out a unique and profoundly prosperous reign, leaving an indelible mark on the annals of ancient Egypt, a testament to what one determined individual could achieve against all odds. As the echoes of Hatshepsut's remarkable reign, her triumphs, and her eventual erasure begin to softly dissipate, we now turn our attention from the grandeur of royal power in its fragile memory to a more abstract, yet equally profound, aspect of ancient Egyptian civilization, the very language that conveyed their deepest thoughts, their intricate beliefs, and their enduring history. We will now gently descend into the intricate beauty and enduring mystery of hieroglyphs, the very words of the gods themselves, the language of the gods, unlocking the secrets of hieroglyphs and ancient rituals. From the monumental achievements of pharaohs, etched and then sometimes erased from stone, we now turn our quiet attention to a more abstract, yet equally profound, aspect of ancient Egyptian civilization, their remarkable system of writing, the hieroglyphs. These intricate, elegant symbols, often referred to by the Egyptians themselves as Medu Neter, meaning words of the gods, adorned the majestic walls of their temples, flowed gracefully across fragile papyrus scrolls, and were meticulously carved into the silent chambers of their tombs, carrying the very whispers of a complex civilization across the vast expanse of millennia. For many, many centuries after the last priest meticulously inscribed them, after the last hand understood their intricate dance of meaning, their profound significance was utterly lost, a silent, beautiful enigma, a profound mystery waiting patiently to be unraveled. Imagine, if you will, the experience of gazing upon a vast wall, or perhaps a fragment of a delicate papyrus, entirely covered in these strange and compelling carvings. Your eye might discern the distinct outline of a bird, perhaps an owl or an ibis, rendered with exquisite detail, a meticulously woven basket, its texture almost palpable, the piercing gaze of a human eye, seemingly watching across time, or the elegant, abstract curl of a coil of rope, each individual symbol, a miniature work of art in itself, held not just one layer of meaning, but often multiple, interwoven layers, unlike the simpler, more straightforward alphabetic systems we are accustomed to today. Hieroglyphs masterfully combine different types of signs. There were pictograms, which directly represented the object depicted, a sun disk for the sun, for example. Then came ideograms, symbols that conveyed an idea or concept associated with the depicted object, such as a pair of legs to denote movement. And crucially, there were phonograms, signs that represented specific sounds, much like the letters in our own alphabet, forming the phonetic backbone of the language. This intricate, multi-layered interplay between visual representation, conceptual meaning, and phonetic value is precisely what rendered the task of deciphering them so uniquely formidable, so utterly challenging for generations of scholars. For nearly 1,500 years, the living knowledge of how to read and interpret these hieroglyphs slowly, inexorably vanished. The very last known hieroglyphic inscription dates to a stele from the island of Philae in 394 CE, a final, fading whisper from a dying tradition. As the Roman Empire embraced Christianity and its influence spread throughout Egypt, the ancient, pagan ways, with their gods and their sacred script, gradually faded into obscurity. The intricate, beautiful language that had once eloquently spoken of the reigns of pharaohs, the divine interventions of gods, and the most mundane details of daily life, became a silent enigma. The magnificent, elegant carvings on temple pylons and tomb walls, once vibrant with meaning, were reduced to nothing more than decorative patterns, beautiful but incomprehensible to the subsequent generations who walked amongst them. The Rosetta Stone, which held the key, lay hidden, silent, its secret unrevealed. The pivotal, long-awaited breakthrough, the very key to unlocking this vast repository of lost language and knowledge, lay buried for centuries until its momentous discovery in the summer of 1799. It was unearthed, almost by chance, by soldiers of Napoleon's expedition during the construction of a fort near the town of Rosetta, modern-day Rashid in the Nile Delta. The now legendary Rosetta Stone, this unassuming, dark slab of granodiorite, held the very same text inscribed in 3 distinct scripts. At the top, the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs; in the middle, Demotic, a later, more cursive and everyday form of Egyptian writing; and at the bottom, ancient Greek. It was the presence of the Greek, a language well understood by scholars of the era, that provided the absolutely crucial linguistic bridge, the intellectual Rosetta Stone for the Rosetta Stone itself, that would finally allow the voices of ancient Egypt to speak across time once more. The painstaking, meticulous work of decipherment began almost immediately, drawing the attention of brilliant minds across Europe. The most famous and ultimately successful of these efforts was undertaken by the young French scholar Jean-François Champollion in the early decades of the 19th century. Imagine the quiet, unwavering dedication required for such an monumental undertaking. Countless hours spent meticulously comparing the known Greek text to the hieroglyphic and Demotic versions, patiently searching for repeating patterns, for proper names, like those of the Ptolemaic rulers Ptolemy and Cleopatra, which could be transliterated across the different scripts. Champollion's profound breakthrough, often attributed to a flash of genius, but born of years of relentless study, came when he correctly realized that hieroglyphs were not purely symbolic, as had long been stubbornly assumed by earlier scholars. Instead, they cleverly combined symbolic representations with phonetic elements, meaning some signs represented specific sounds, much like the individual letters in our own alphabet. This profound revelation was akin to turning a key in a vast, long-locked door, allowing the very words and thoughts of ancient Egypt to slowly, gracefully begin to speak once more. It was a moment of unparalleled intellectual triumph, unlocking an entire civilization. Once deciphered, the hieroglyphs unfurled themselves like an ancient scroll, opening a magnificent window into every conceivable facet of ancient Egyptian life, from the grandest royal pronouncements to the most intimate personal details. They began to reveal not only the formal royal decrees, the chronicles of historical events, and the lists of pharaohs, but also practical medical texts detailing ailments and their treatments, elaborate magical spells intended for protection or influence, tender love poems expressing human emotion, and meticulously detailed accounts of their complex religious beliefs and intricate rituals. The sheer breadth of information was staggering, providing an unprecedented depth of understanding. Consider, in particular, the rituals surrounding death and the afterlife, a central, pervasive pillar of Egyptian spirituality and a defining characteristic of their culture. Through the meticulous study of hieroglyphic texts, like the renowned Book of the Dead, a modern term for a collection of spells and prayers, we gained an unparalleled understanding of their profound and deeply comforting belief in a perilous, yet ultimately hopeful journey to the field of reeds, a paradise where the deceased, if deemed worthy, would live eternally in a perfect reflection of their earthly existence, free from suffering. These sacred texts, carefully inscribed on papyrus rolls placed within sarcophagi, on linen shrouds, and directly onto tomb walls, were not merely decorative embellishments. They were, in essence, intricate guides, celestial maps, and potent, protective spells, meticulously designed to assist the soul on its potentially perilous journey through the shadowy, do it, or underworld. Imagine the very words of these texts, chanted or read, guiding the deceased through the crucial and terrifying weighing of the heart ceremony in the Hall of the Truths. Here, the heart, which the Egyptians believed to be the true seat of the soul, consciousness, and moral character, was symbolically weighed against the single, perfect feather of Mat, the goddess of truth, justice, and cosmic order. Should the heart be found heavy with misdeeds, burdened by lies or transgressions, it would be instantly devoured by the monstrous deity Amet, the terrifying devourer of the dead, signifying eternal annihilation. But if the heart was found to be pure, light, and perfectly balanced, the soul could then proceed, unhindered, to the blissful fields of eternal existence. These texts, meticulously inscribed with precise hieroglyphic characters, provided the exact incantations, the necessary knowledge, and the correct answers needed to navigate these divine judgments and ensure safe passage. The hieroglyphs also illuminate, in exquisite and sometimes chilling detail, the elaborate and precise process of mummification, revealing it to be far more than just a physical preservation technique. It was understood as a profoundly sacred ritual, a complex series of steps steeped in religious significance. The various stages, the careful removal of internal organs though the brain was discarded, the heart often left in place, the lengthy drying of the body with specially prepared natron salt, and the meticulous wrapping in countless layers of fine linen bandages, often numbering in the hundreds, were each accompanied by specific prayers, powerful spells, and ritualistic gestures. Each word uttered, each symbol inscribed, was believed to prepare the body for rebirth and to facilitate the vital reunification of the spiritual essence, the Ka, and the Ba with its physical vessel. In the afterlife, ensuring eternal life, the words themselves, it was believed, possessed an inherent, magical power, capable of imbuing the mummy with vitality, animating it for the afterlife, and safeguarding its perpetual existence. Beyond the realms of death and ritual, the deciphered hieroglyphs opened up a rich tapestry of mundane and extraordinary life, from medical prescriptions for common ailments, detailing herbal remedies and surgical procedures, to lyrical hymns praising the sun god Ra or the gentle goddess Hathor, to intricate legal contracts governing property and marriage, to even simple receipts for goods exchanged. The hieroglyphs offer an intimate, direct, and multifaceted glimpse into the ancient Egyptian worldview. They patiently reveal a people deeply, existentially connected to their pantheon of gods, profoundly obsessed with the meticulous maintenance of cosmic order Mat, and profoundly hopeful about the continuation of life beyond the veil of death. The allure of the unknown, the intellectual curiosity sparked by these elegant, speaking symbols, continues to captivate and draw us in, allowing us, even thousands of years later, to still hear the faint, echoing voices of their ancient wisdom. As the intricate patterns of hieroglyphs, their decipherment, and the profound secrets they revealed about ancient Egyptian belief systems begin to softly fade from our mind's eye, we prepare to shift our perspective once more From the sacred texts and the vital rituals of the afterlife, we will now gently, almost imperceptibly, move to the very heart of active religious life in ancient Egypt, the influential, often secretive, and immensely powerful world of the priesthood, those who served the gods directly. The temple's embrace, a day in the life of an Egyptian priest. From the silent, profound wisdom of hieroglyphs, patiently awaiting decipherment across millennia, and from the solemn, intricate rituals that guided souls to the afterlife, we now step, with hushed reverence, into the sacred precincts of the ancient Egyptian temple. This was not merely a place of worship, but a vibrant, living institution of immense power, vast wealth, and profound spiritual significance. Here, our final focus shifts to the priesthood, a highly organized, deeply influential, and often secretive class whose meticulously structured daily lives were entirely dedicated to the tireless service of the gods and the continuous, delicate maintenance of the sacred balance of cosmic order, known as Ma. Imagine, if you will, a typical day for a priest, not necessarily the revered high priest of a grand state temple like Karnak or Luxor, whose responsibilities spanned the entire kingdom, but perhaps an ordinary, lower-ranking priest serving a particular deity within a local temple dedicated to, say, Sobek, the crocodile god, or Sekhmet, the lioness goddess. Your day would begin, as it did for most of ancient Egypt, long before the sun had fully illuminated the desert sky. In the cool, profound darkness of pre-dawn, the very air within the temple, even at this hour, would feel still, heavy and thick, with the lingering, aromatic scent of incense from the previous evening's rituals, a fragrance that permeated the very stone, your first, and arguably most sacred, duty of the day. Following a ritual purification of your body and spirit, perhaps by washing in the temple's sacred lake or using water drawn from it, would be to proceed with solemn steps to enter the sanctuary, the innermost, most holy of holies within the temple complex. This was an extraordinarily sacred space, deemed too pure and too powerful for common people to ever enter. With slow, deliberate, and respectful movements, guided by centuries of tradition, you would carefully unseal the shrine, often a beautifully crafted wooden or stone naos, thereby revealing the meticulously crafted, gilded, or often adorned image of the deity. This was far more than a mere statue. It was believed to be the living, breathing, divine embodiment of the deity itself, deserving of the utmost care, reverence, and devotion. The intimate and highly symbolic rituals of dressing, feeding, and anointing the god would then commence. With gentle, practiced hands, you would carefully clean the cult statue, perhaps wiping away any dust or imperfections. You would then dress it in fresh, pristine linen garments, often intricately woven and exquisitely embroidered. Following this, you would adorn it with glittering jewels and precious amulets, symbolic of the deity's power and splendor. Finally, you would offer it symbolic meals, carefully prepared loaves of bread, vessels of rich, nutritious beer, fragrant oils, and baskets overflowing with fresh fruits, a profound, symbolic sustenance believed to nourish the divine essence and maintain the god's vitality. These daily rituals, performed with unwavering precision and unwavering devotion, were not simply acts of worship. They were believed to literally sustain the god, ensuring its continued benevolence towards Egypt, its fertile lands, and the reigning pharaoh, thereby guaranteeing the very order of the cosmos. Each meticulous action, each whispered incantation, was a silent prayer, a sacred duty to maintain Mat itself. Beyond the inner sanctum, the broader temple complex was far from a silent, ethereal place. It was a remarkably bustling and vibrant hub of activity. While the high priest, at the apex of the priestly hierarchy, might be deeply involved in crucial state affairs, advising the pharaoh, overseeing vast temple estates, and managing immense accumulated wealth that could rival the royal treasury, the daily life of many ordinary priests involved a wide array of administrative duties. Temples were not merely isolated places of worship. They were, in reality, powerful, self-sustaining economic institutions. They owned vast tracts of fertile land, employed numerous laborers for farming and construction, and managed sprawling granaries, bustling workshops producing everything from pottery to textiles, and even their own breweries. As a priest, you might spend hours meticulously recording incoming offerings, carefully supervising the temple's vast stores of grain, precious metals, and other goods, or overseeing the complex agricultural production on the temple's lands. The characteristic precision and pervasive bureaucracy of ancient Egypt, so evident in its governmental structures, were equally reflected and arguably perfected. Even within its sacred walls, education was another profoundly vital aspect of priestly life and a crucial function of the temple itself. Temples frequently served as the primary schools and centers of learning for the entire civilization. Here, young scribes, often destined for priestly or administrative careers, were rigorously trained in the intricacies of hieroglyphs, the art of writing, reading, and interpreting the sacred texts. They also studied mathematics, essential for administration and construction, and astronomy, crucial for predicting the annual Nile flood and determining the correct times for religious festivals. As a seasoned priest, you might find yourself deeply involved in the demanding task of teaching these eager young minds, patiently guiding their hands as they learn to meticulously copy religious texts or dedicating hours to the quiet, profound study of sacred writings yourself, seeking to deepen your understanding of divine will, ancient prophecies, and the complex theological doctrines that underpin their world. The quiet scratching of reed pens on papyrus, the low murmur of lessons being recited, the rustle of ancient scrolls, would be a familiar and comforting soundtrack to significant portions of your day. The rhythms of the temple were also fundamentally governed by the elaborate religious calendar, a complex and meticulously planned cycle of festivals, processions, and holy days throughout the year. On these auspicious occasions, the otherwise sequestered and rarely seen cult statue of the deity would be brought out into the brilliant light of the outer courtyards, sometimes even carried on a specially constructed, richly adorned sacred barca ceremonial boat by a procession of chanting priests. This sacred procession would move through the temple's grand avenues, or perhaps even be paraded through the very streets of the city for the populace to witness. Imagine the vibrant, almost hypnotic chants, the solemn yet deeply moving music of flutes and sistra, the rich, pervasive scent of burning incense filling the air, and the collective awe and reverence of the thousands of people gathered as their beloved deity, brought forth from its hidden sanctuary, passed by. These grand, public events were a rare and vital link between the hidden, sacred world of the sanctuary and the visible, tangible world of the common Egyptian, profoundly reinforcing the connection between the gods, the ruling pharaoh, and the people themselves, solidifying the social and spiritual fabric of the land. The power and influence of the priesthood were immense, yet often subtly wielded. They were the essential intermediaries between the human and divine realms, serving as interpreters of omens and dreams, performing powerful healing rituals for the sick, and offering crucial counsel to the pharaoh and the general populace. Their vast and privileged knowledge of sacred texts, their precise understanding of astronomy, absolutely crucial for predicting the life-giving Niles, flood and the celestial movements, and their mastery of medical practices gave them an unparalleled influence over both the highest echelons of power and the daily lives of ordinary people. The significant power was, at times, inherently politically charged, with powerful high priests of major cults, particularly that of Amun-Ra at Karnak, sometimes rivaling, or even exceeding, the authority and wealth of the pharaoh himself, creating delicate balances of power within the kingdom. As the day waned, and the setting sun cast long, dramatic shadows across the vast temple courtyards, painting the ancient stone in hues of orange and purple, the evening rituals would commence. More offerings would be presented, more ancient prayers whispered, and finally, a last, careful resealing of the shrine, ensuring the deity rested peacefully and securely through the long hours of night. Then, as the first bright stars began to emerge in the ink-black, boundless sky, the temple complex would slowly fall silent once more, save for the whisper of the desert wind through its towering columns and the quiet, unwavering vigil of the few priests on duty, maintaining the sacred trust through the hours of darkness. The life of an ancient Egyptian priest was one of profound dedication, meticulous ritual, and immense, pervasive influence. They were the silent, steadfast guardians of ancient traditions, the meticulous interpreters of divine will, and the steady, guiding hand that maintained the spiritual heartbeat of a civilization that endured in remarkable consistency for thousands upon thousands of years. As the final echoes of the ancient Egyptian temple chambers gently recede, and the long, silent shadows of history softly dissipate, we find ourselves, with a comforting sense of return, gently drawn back to the quiet familiarity of the present moment. We've journeyed, with unhurried steps, far beyond the imposing pyramids and the grand, often dramatic narratives of pharaohs, to glimpse, with quiet understanding, the demanding yet profoundly meaningful lives of ordinary farmers, whose existence was intertwined with the very pulse of the Nile. We've witnessed the bold, unprecedented ascent of an extraordinary queen, Hatshepsut, who defied the conventions of her age to seize and master the throne. We've delved into the intricate beauty and long-lost wisdom of a forgotten language, hieroglyphs, whose decipherment unlocked the deepest secrets of an ancient worldview. And finally, we've lingered within the sacred routines and immense influence of the priesthood, those who meticulously maintained the cosmic order. Ancient Egypt, for all its colossal grandeur, its shimmering gold, and its enduring mysteries, was fundamentally built upon the tireless efforts, the quiet resilience, and the deeply held beliefs of countless individuals, each one a vital thread, patiently weaving their life into the rich, intricate tapestry of their civilization. Their world, filled with its unique challenges, its pervasive fears, its enduring hopes, and its profound spiritual connections, offers a timeless perspective on the human condition, a testament to endurance and faith. As you reflect on these tranquil journeys through the sands of time, on the echoes of lives lived long ago, allow the gentle, steady current of history to carry you effortlessly towards a peaceful and restorative rest. May your dreams be as vast and serene as the desert sky over the timeless Nile, and as quiet and profound as the ancient whispers we've explored tonight. Until our next quiet journey into the fascinating, yet always calming, annals of boring history. For sleep, drift peacefully, knowing the long sleep of the ages holds many more stories yet to be softly told. Close your eyes, if you wish, and let your mind drift back to a time long before the world you know. Tonight, we journey to ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, where the first cities rose from the dusty plains between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This is a land of relentless sun, of mud-brick villages, of empires born and lost. In this soothing exploration, we'll walk the fields of a Sumerian farmer, trace the rise of a legendary king, ponder the mysteries of ancient records, and step into the opulent courts of the elite. Let the rhythm of their lives, their struggles, and their triumphs carry you gently into the past. As you relax and perhaps drift toward sleep, imagine yourself there, in a world both familiar and strange, where every day was a constant struggle for survival. Let's begin. Why you wouldn't last a day in a Mesopotamian village? Imagine yourself waking just before dawn, the air already thick with the warmth of a Mesopotamian morning. Around 3000 BCE, you're in a small Sumerian village, nestled along the banks of the Euphrates, in a land we now call southern Iraq. Your home is a modest structure of sun-baked mud brick, its walls rough and cool to the touch, topped with the texture of straw mixed into the clay. The single room is dimly lit by the faint, flickering glow of a clay lamp, its wick burning low on sesame oil, casting long shadows across the packed dirt floor. The air inside is heavy, carrying the earthy scent of dust and straw, mingled with the faint, lingering tang of yesterday's meal, a pot of barley porridge left cooling by the hearth. You rise from a woven reed mat, your only bedding, its fibers, pressing into your skin, leaving faint imprints that itch slightly as you stir. Your body feels stiff, your muscles aching from a lifetime of labor, a reminder that rest is fleeting in this world. This is your life as a Sumerian farmer, and it is a life defined by the relentless rhythm of survival. Bound to the land and the river, you stretch, feeling the creak of your joints, and pull on a simple kilt made of coarse linen, its fibers scratching against your skin, worn and patched from years of use. The kilt is tied with a belt of twisted reeds, rough against your waist, and you slip your feet into sandals woven from palm fronds, their edges fraying from constant wear. As you step outside, the first rays of sunlight pierce the horizon, bathing the village in a soft, golden glow. Your village is a cluster of mud brick homes, their flat roofs crowded with drying crops, barley, lentils, and dates, or the occasional sleeping family seeking the cooler night air. The air hums with the faint sounds of stirring life, the low bleating of goats tethered nearby, the creak of a wooden cart being pushed along a rutted path, the distant murmur of a neighbor fetching water from a communal well. The ground beneath your feet is dry and powdery, kicking up small clouds of dust with each step, and the air carries the faint, musky scent of livestock and the sweet decay of riverbank reeds. Your day begins with urgency, for the fields await, and the rhythm of your life is dictated by the needs of the barley crops that sustain your village. You walk along a narrow, dusty path toward the fields, passing other farmers already at work, their silhouettes bent against the rising sun. The air is alive with the buzz of flies, drawn to the sweat on your brow and the damp patches of irrigated land. You carry a simple Tula wooden hoe with a sharpened flint blade, its handle worn smooth from years of use, fitting uncomfortably in your calloused hands. The fields stretch before you, a patchwork of green shoots and cracked earth, fed by a network of irrigation canals that you and your neighbors painstakingly maintain. The Euphrates, the lifeblood of your world, glimmers in the distance, its waters both a blessing and a curse. It nourishes the crops, but a sudden flood could sweep away months of labor, while a drought could leave your fields barren. Your family hungry. You begin your work, dragging the hoe through the soil to clear weeds or reinforce the canal banks. The sun climbs higher, its heat pressing against your back like a heavy hand, and sweat beads on your skin, stinging your eyes and leaving trails through the dust on your face. The labor is back-breaking, each swing of the hoe sending a dull ache through your shoulders and down your spine. The repetitive motion becomes a kind of meditative rhythm. Though it's born of necessity rather than choice, the fields are not. Silent. There's the chirp of insects, the splash of water as you divert it into channels, the occasional shout of a child chasing a stray goat. These sounds blend into a timeless hum, a backdrop to the constant struggle of coaxing life from the earth. Your hands, rough and calloused, bear the scars of this work, small cuts from sharp reeds, blisters from gripping the hoe, and the ever-present grit embedded under your nails. As the morning wears on, you pause to inspect the irrigation channels, ensuring the water flows evenly to the thirsty crops. The canals are a marvel of collective effort, their banks reinforced with mud and straw, but they require constant maintenance. You kneel to pack more earth into a crumbling section, your fingers sinking into the cool, damp soil, its texture a fleeting relief against the heat. The work is relentless, and your body protests a twinge in your lower back, the burn of strained muscles, the itch of dust caked on your skin. You glance at the sky, judging the sun's position, knowing there's still hours of labor ahead. Before you can rest. By midday, the heat is stifling, and you seek the shade of a lone palm tree, its fronds casting dappled shadows on the ground. You sit, cross-legged, and eat a simple meal from a clay bowl, a thick porridge of barley, slightly gritty from the stone-ground grain, flavored with a few wild onions you gathered near the river. The taste is plain, familiar, and unchanging, a staple that fills your stomach, but offers little comfort. You sip from a clay cup filled with water from the canal, its faint muddy taste a reminder that clean water is a luxury you rarely enjoy. As you eat, You feel the weight of the day's labor settling into your bones. The dull ache in your shoulders, the soreness in your hands. Flies buzz around you, persistent and maddening, and you brush them away with a weary hand. The brief rest is a necessity, not a luxury, for the fields demand your return. You rise and resume your work, now turning to the task of weeding the barley fields. The shoots are fragile, easily choked by wild grasses, and you move carefully, pulling weeds by hand or slicing them with your hoe. The sun beats down, and the air shimmers with heat, carrying the faint, sweet scent of ripening barley mixed with the earthy tang of the riverbank. Your thoughts drift to the constant fear that hangs over you like the sun itself. The fear of crop failure. If the harvest falls short, you'll have little to offer the temple or the city's granaries, which demand a share of your yield as tax. Falling behind could mean borrowing grain at terms that bind you to years of debt, or worse, facing the overseers who enforce the city's laws. You've heard whispered tales of farmers driven to desperation, their fields seized, their families forced to labor for others. Even in good years, the work is unending, repairing tools, mending canal banks, guarding against pests like locusts that could strip your fields bare in hours. The river, for all its gifts, is unpredictable. You've seen its waters swell without warning, swallowing fields in a muddy torrent, or recede to a trickle, leaving the earth cracked and lifeless. You pause to wipe your brow, gazing at the Euphrates in the distance, its surface glinting like polished bronze. It's both your lifeline and your adversary, and you've learned to respect its power. You recall stories of neighbors who lost everything to a flood, their homes reduced to sodden ruins, their crops buried under silt. Yet you have no choice but to rely on its waters, to pray to the gods An, Enlil, Enki for balance, for mercy. As the afternoon wanes, you turn to another task, harvesting reeds from the riverbank to repair your home's roof or weave new mats. The reeds are tall and sharp, cutting your hands as you work, and the marshy ground sucks at your feet, leaving them caked in mud. The air here is thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying vegetation, and mosquitoes hum around you, their bites adding to the day's discomfort. You work methodically, bundling the reeds, knowing they'll serve as both shelter and tool. In the days to come, the labor is slow, deliberate, and your body feels heavier with each passing hour. As evening falls, the air cools slightly, though it remains heavy with the scent of earth and smoke from village hearths. You return home, your sandals slapping against the dusty path, your kilt stiff with dried sweat and dirt. Your family awaits in the small mud brick house, their faces lit by the soft glow of the hearth. You share a quiet meal, more barley porridge, perhaps with a handful of dried dates for sweetness, a rare treat. The clay pots clink softly as you eat, and the conversation is sparse, shaped by exhaustion and the weight of tomorrow's tasks. The walls of your home offer little comfort, their rough surfaces cold against your back as you sit. Outside, the village settles into silence, broken only by the occasional bark of a dog or the cry of a night bird. You lie down on your reed mat, the fibers creaking under your weight, and stare up at the low ceiling, its mud brick surface cracked from years of heat and rain. Sleep comes quickly, not because you're at peace, but because your body demands it. The stars outside burn bright in a sky unmarred by city lights, but you have little time to gaze at them. Tomorrow will bring the same routine, the same struggle, the same rhythm of survival, a cycle as unending as the flow of the Euphrates. This was the life of a Sumerian farmer, a life of toil and resilience, where every day tested your endurance against the land, the river, and the demands of survival. As you imagine yourself drifting back to the present, let the weight of their struggles linger, a quiet reminder of the human spirit's persistence. We'll carry this sense of endurance forward as we turn to our next story, one of ambition and conquest, of a man who rose from nothing to shape an empire. The rise and fall of Sargon of Akkad. As the sun sets over the Sumerian village, where the rhythm of labor shapes every day, let your mind drift to a different figure in this ancient world, a man whose name would echo through the ages, not for his toil in the fields, but for his ambition to forge something greater. This is the story of Sargon of Akkad, a man who rose from obscure beginnings to become the architect of the world's first empire, uniting the fractious city-states of Mesopotamia under a single banner. His life, woven with legend and tempered by the challenges of power, unfolds slowly, a tale of resilience and vision told in the quiet, reflective tones of history. Settle in, and let this story carry you deeper into the past as the details of Sargon's journey unfold like the gentle flow of the Euphrates. Imagine a time around 2330 for BCE, when the city-states of Sumer Uruk, Lagash stood as independent powers, each vying for dominance, their rulers clashing over fertile lands and trade routes. Into this fragmented world, a child was born, his origins shrouded in mystery. According to the tales etched in cuneiform, Sargon's story begins with a humble, almost mythical birth. His mother, said to be a priestess, bore him in secret and placed him in a reed basket, sealing it with bitumen to protect him from the river's current. She set him adrift on the Euphrates, entrusting his fate to the gods. The basket drifted through the reeds, carried by the river's gentle sway, until it was found by a water drawer named Aki, who raised the boy as his own. This tale, whether truth or legend, paints Sargon as a child of destiny, touched by the divine yet rooted in the simplicity of the land. As a young man, Sargon grew up in the shadow of Kish, a powerful city-state. He was not born to wealth or status, but to a life of service, perhaps tending gardens or carrying water, his hands roughened by labor much like the farmers of the villages we've explored. Yet within him burned a quiet ambition, a spark that set him apart. The records are sparse, but they suggest he found favor with the king of Kish, perhaps as a trusted servant or a cupbearer, a role that placed him close to power. The city of Kish was a bustling hub, its mud brick walls enclosing markets filled with the chatter of traders, the scent of spices, and the clink of copper tools. Here, Sargon learned the ways of politics and war, observing the rivalries between city-states, the delicate balance of alliances, and the ever-present threat of betrayal. His rise began modestly, with a position as a local leader in Kish, though the details of how he gained this role remain unclear. Perhaps it was his cunning, his ability to inspire loyalty, or simply the favor of fortune. By his early adulthood, Sargon had gathered followers, men drawn to his vision of a unified Mesopotamia. He looked beyond the walls of Kish to the fractured landscape of Sumer, where cities like Uruk and Umma waged petty wars over water rights and borders. The constant struggle for dominance weakened them all, and Sargon saw an opportunity. With a small but loyal band, he began to challenge the established order, his actions deliberate, his strategies patient. His first great conquest was the city of Uruk, a jewel of Sumer with its towering ziggurat and bustling markets. Imagine Sargon standing before its gates, not with the fanfare of a conqueror, but with the quiet determination of a man who knew the weight of his ambition. The battle for Uruk was not a single clash, but a series of maneuvers, sieges, negotiations, and alliances that wore down its defenses. When Uruk fell, Sargon did not raise it but claimed its loyalty, appointing trusted allies to govern while preserving its temples and trade. This was his genius, not destruction, but unification, binding cities to his will through a mix of force and diplomacy. From Uruk, Sargon's reach extended, city by city. Lagash, Umma, Nippur, falling under his banner. The Akkadian Empire, as it came to be known, was born not in a single moment, but through years of relentless effort. Picture him traveling the dusty roads between cities, his cloak stained with the earth of the plains, meeting with local rulers, offering terms of peace or the threat of war. His army, though modest at first, grew with each victory, swelled by warriors from conquered cities who saw in Sargon a leader who could bring stability. He introduced standard measures for trade, a shared language for administration, and a network of roads that tied his empire together, ensuring goods and messages flowed as freely as the rivers. Yet power brought its own burdens. The city-states, proud and independent, chafed under Akkadian rule. Rebellions flared, particularly in the south, where Sumerian rulers demanded tribute, their loyalty often wavering. Sargon faced constant challenges to his authority, requiring him to quell uprisings with a combination of military might and strategic marriages to bind local elites to his cause. His court became a center of administration, with scribes recording his decrees on clay tablets, their stylus marks preserving his legacy. But the rebellions persisted, a reminder of the fragility of his empire. Imagine him, late in his reign, standing on the walls of Akkad, his capital, gazing out over the plains, knowing that his dream of unity could unravel with a single misstep. The constant struggle to maintain control weighed on him, much like the farmer's struggle against the river's whims. Sargon's later years were marked by efforts to secure his legacy. He appointed his daughter, Enheduanna, as high priestess of Ur, a role that blended spiritual and political power. Her poetry, some of the earliest known in history, praised the gods and her father's reign, etching his name into the cultural memory of Mesopotamia. But the empire he built was vast and unwieldy, stretching from the Persian Gulf to the northern mountains. Maintaining it required constant campaigns, draining resources and lives. The records speak of battles where lives were lost, not in glorious triumph, but in the slow, grinding cost of ambition. Sargon's enemies were many rival kings, resentful nobles, and distant tribes who saw his rule as an imposition. Yet he pressed on, driven by a vision of a world where the river's bounty could be shared, not fought over. His death, around 20 to 79 BCE, is shrouded in as much mystery as his birth. Some say he died in battle, others in his palace, surrounded by advisors and wealth. What is certain is that his empire faltered without him. His sons, Rimush and Manishtushu, faced rebellions, and within a century, the Akkadian Empire began to fracture, its cities reclaiming their independence. Sargon's legacy, though, endured not in the empire's borders, but in the idea of unity, a vision that would inspire later rulers. As you picture him, a man of humble origins who dared to dream beyond the fields, let his story settle into your mind, a tale of ambition tempered by the weight of power. As we leave Sargon's world, where empires rose and fell like the tides of the Euphrates, we turn to a different kind of legacy, one not of conquest, but of mystery. The Sumerian king list, a record etched in clay, holds secrets that still puzzle those who study the past. Let's explore its enigmatic tales as the night carries us deeper into history's quiet embrace. The mystery of the Sumerian king list. As the story of Sargon fades, his empire a fleeting mark on the vast canvas of Mesopotamia. Let your mind drift to a quieter enigma, one etched not in conquest but in the delicate scratches of his scribes' stylus. We turn now to the Sumerian king list, a cuneiform record that blends history and myth, whispering tales of kings who ruled for thousands of years. This ancient text, discovered on crumbling clay tablets, offers a window into how the Sumerians saw their past, a past where gods and mortals intertwined, where time itself seems to stretch beyond comprehension. As we explore this mystery, let the gentle rhythm of its questions and the allure of the unknown guide you deeper into the soothing embrace of history, perfect for drifting toward sleep. Imagine a scribe, seated in the dim light of a mud brick room in the city of Nippur, around 2000 BCE. The air is thick with the scent of damp clay and burning oil. The only sounds the soft scratch of his reed stylus against a tablet, and the distant hum of the bustling city. Before him lies the task of recording the Sumerian king list, a chronicle of rulers who governed the cities of Sumer and Akkad. From the dawn of time to the scribe's own era, the tablet, still soft and pliable, captures names, reigns, and cities, each entry a thread in the tapestry of Mesopotamian memory. But as we read this list today, uncovered by archaeologists in the sands of modern Iraq, it raises more questions than answers. Why do some kings reign for tens of thousands of years? Was this a historical record, a religious text, or something else entirely? Let's wander through its mysteries As the past unfolds like a dream, the Sumerian king list begins with a claim that sets it apart from any modern history book: kingship. It says, was lowered from heaven to the city of Eridu. The first kings, like Ululim of Eridu, are said to have ruled for 28,800 years, their reigns stretching into a mythical past. Picture Eridu, a city of mud-brick ziggurats and shimmering canals, where the first ruler sat, perhaps as a priest-king, mediating between gods and people. The list names 8 such kings before a great flood, a deluge that mirrors stories found in later traditions, like the Epic of Gilgamesh or the Bible. These antediluvian kings, with their impossible reigns, seem to belong to a realm of legend. Yet the list transitions seamlessly to more familiar names, like those of Uruk and Kish, where reigns shrink to decades, closer to human lifespans. This blend of myth and history is the heart of the list's enigma, a puzzle that invites us to wonder without demanding answers. Archaeologists have unearthed fragments of the king list on multiple tablets, some found in Nippur's temple archives, others scattered across ancient cities like Larsa and Babylon. Picture the moment of discovery. A modern excavator, brushing away centuries of dust, reveals a cracked tablet, its wedge-shaped script still legible. These tablets, dating from the early 2nd millennium BCE, vary slightly in their details. Some add kings, others omit them, but they share a common thread: a desire to connect the present to a divine past. Scholars have pored over these fragments, piecing together a timeline that spans centuries, yet the long reigns defy logic. One theory suggests these numbers were symbolic, perhaps tied to Sumerian mathematics, which used a base 60 system. A reign of 28,800 years could be a poetic exaggeration, a way to honor a ruler's greatness by assigning numbers that evoke eternity. Or perhaps they reflect a cultural belief in a golden age, when gods walked among men, their reigns measured, not in years but in cosmic cycles. Another possibility is that the king list served a political purpose. Imagine a ruler in a later dynasty seeking to legitimize his power by commissioning a scribe to record a lineage stretching back to divine origins. He could claim his rule was part of a sacred tradition. The list often notes when kingship moved from one city to another: Kish to Uruk, Uruk to Ur, as if power itself was a gift passed by the gods. This could have been propaganda, a way to unify rival cities under a shared history, much as Sargon sought to unify them through conquest. Yet the list's tone is not boastful. It is methodical, almost serene, listing names and numbers with the precision of a temple ledger. This calm recitation, etched in clay, makes it a perfect subject for our journey tonight, its mysteries unfolding without urgency, inviting contemplation rather than resolution. The archaeological context deepens the enigma. Excavations at sites like Nippur have uncovered not just the king list, but thousands of cuneiform tablets, records of trade, laws, and prayers. These tablets, stored in temple libraries, suggest a culture obsessed with recording, preserving knowledge for posterity. Yet the king list stands out, its blend of fact and myth defying easy categorization. Some kings, like Gilgamesh of Uruk, appear both in the list and in epic poetry. Their reigns 126 years for Gilgamesh, blurring the line between history and legend. Archaeologists have found evidence of real cities mentioned in the list, like Uruk's massive walls or his royal tombs, but no trace of the antediluvian kings. Were they purely mythical, or do they hint at a forgotten prehistory, lost to floods or time? The absence of answers is part of the list's allure, a quiet invitation to ponder the unknown. Consider the cultural practices woven into this mystery. The Sumerians revered their gods An, Enlil, Inanna, and saw their kings as intermediaries, chosen to maintain cosmic order. The king list reflects this, framing kingship as a divine gift. Its longevity a sign of favor, yet it also hints at human fragility. As cities rise and fall, their rulers replaced by new dynasties. The scribes who wrote it, laboring in the flickering light of their lamps, were not just historians, but storytellers, weaving a narrative that gave meaning to their world. Their work, preserved in clay, survived millennia, a testament to their care. As you imagine their hands shaping the tablets, the soft scrape of stylus on clay, let the mystery of the king list settle over you, a puzzle that needs no solving, only quiet contemplation. This record, with its blend of history and myth, reminds us of the Sumerians' desire to understand their place in the cosmos, much like the farmers' struggle to tame the land or Sargon's quest to unify it. As we leave this enigma behind, let's step into a different world within Mesopotamia, one of opulence and ritual, where kings ruled not from fields, but from palaces adorned with the wealth of an empire. Life in the palace of a Mesopotamian king. As the mysteries of the Sumerian king list fade into the quiet shadows of history, let your mind drift from the dusty fields and cuneiform tablets to a world of opulence and power. We step now into the heart of a Sumerian king's court in the city of around 2100 BCE, where the elite lived in stark contrast to the farmers who toiled under the relentless sun. Imagine a palace rising from the plains, its mud brick walls adorned with glazed tiles that shimmer in the sunlight, a testament to wealth and divine favor. This is a world of intricate rituals, lavish feasts, and the delicate balance of power, where every moment is shaped by the rhythm of authority. Settle in and let this vivid, tranquil picture of royal life ease you deeper into the soothing embrace of the past. As we explore a life far removed from the struggles of the village, picture yourself standing before the great ziggurat of Ur, a stepped pyramid of mud brick that towers over the city, its slopes gleaming with whitewashed plaster and colored tiles. The palace, adjacent to this sacred structure, is a sprawling complex, its entrance flanked by statues of winged bulls, their stone eyes gazing out over the bustling city. You pass through a gateway, your footsteps echoing on polished stone floors, and enter a world of luxury that feels almost otherworldly compared to the farmer's mud brick hut. The air inside is cooler, scented with myrrh and cedar from burning incense, and the walls are adorned with intricate relief scenes of kings offering gifts to gods, their figures carved with meticulous care. The palace is alive with quiet activity, the soft rustle of linen robes, the murmur of scribes recording taxes, the distant pluck of a lyre played by a court musician. As a king in this world, your day begins not with labor but with ritual. You rise from a bed of imported wood, its surface inlaid with ivory and lapis lazuli, draped with fine wool dyed in vibrant hues of crimson and indigo. Your attendants, trained in the art of deference, dress you in a fringed robe adorned with gold threads, each stitch a mark of wealth. Your head is crowned with a diadem, its weight a constant reminder of your role as the God's chosen. You step into a private chamber for the morning's offerings, where priests await with bowls of barley and dates, their prayers rising like the smoke of incense toward the heavens. The ritual is precise, unhurried, a daily act of maintaining cosmic order, ensuring the God's favor for your city and its people. Your meals are a far cry from the farmer's barley porridge. Imagine a banquet hall, its long table laden with platters of roasted gazelle, fish from the Euphrates, and fruits, like pomegranates and figs, imported from distant lands. Servants pour date wine into silver goblets, their surfaces etched with images of lions and stars. The air is rich with the aroma of baked bread, spiced meats, and honey-sweetened cakes, a feast that contrasts sharply with the village's meager fare. You dine surrounded by advisors and nobles, their conversation a careful dance of loyalty and ambition, their words softened by the clink of goblets and the gentle music of a harp. Yet even here, the weight of rule is ever present. Every bite, every gesture, is watched by those who seek your favor or your downfall. Your role as king extends beyond ceremony. You spend hours in the palace's audience hall, a grand space with high ceilings and walls painted with scenes of victory. Here, you hear petitions from merchants seeking trade privileges, or priests requesting funds for temple repairs. Your scribes, seated at low tables, record each decision on clay tablets, their styluses scratching in a rhythm as steady as the river's flow. You oversee a bureaucracy that manages the city's wealth, grain from the fields, wool from the herds, and tribute from vassal cities. The palace is a hub of administration, its corridors filled with officials carrying tablets or baskets of goods. Yet this power comes with a cost. You must navigate alliances, quell dissent, and appease the gods, whose displeasure could bring famine or invasion. The palace itself is a marvel of engineering and beauty. Its courtyards are shaded by date palms, their fronds swaying in the breeze, and small canals bring water to gardens of tamarisk and myrtle, their scents mingling with the dust of the city. You walk these gardens in the evening, the air cooling, as the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the tiled pathways. Your family, wives, children, and kin live in private quarters, their lives governed by the same rituals and expectations. Your chief wife, perhaps a princess, from a rival city, oversees the household, her influence subtle but profound. The palace is a world unto itself, yet it remains tethered to the city, its wealth built on the labor of farmers like those we met earlier. This life of luxury, though, is not without its burdens. The king's role is precarious, balanced between divine duty and human rivalry. You consult omens daily, priests examining the livers of sacrificed sheep to predict the future, their findings whispered in hushed tones. A poor harvest, a rebellious governor, or a distant enemy could threaten your rule. The palace, for all its splendor, is a place of vigilance, where loyalty is tested and power is never secure. Yet in these moments of quiet, as you stand on a balcony overlooking the city's lights flickering like stars, you feel the weight of history, the same history that binds you to the farmers, the scribes, and the gods. This was the life of a Mesopotamian king, a life of opulence and responsibility, where every act was a thread in the tapestry of empire. As we leave this gilded world, let its images linger, the shimmer of tiles, the scent of incense, the rhythm of ritual as we reflect on the broader sweep of Mesopotamia's story. Conclusion: we've journeyed tonight through the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, a land where the rivers shaped both life and destiny. From the dusty fields of a Sumerian farmer, where every day was a quiet struggle against the earth, to the rise of Sargon, whose ambition forged an empire, we've seen the resilience of those who built the cradle of civilization. The Sumerian king list, with its blend of myth and history, invited us to ponder the mysteries of a people who sought to understand their place in the cosmos. And in the opulent courts of we glimpsed a world of power and ritual, a stark contrast to the toil of the village. As you lie in the comfort of the present, far from the heat of the Mesopotamian sun or the weight of a king's crown, let these stories settle over you like a soft blanket. The past, with its rhythms of struggle and triumph, reminds us of the enduring human spirit. Rest now and let the gentle flow of history carry you into sleep.
Opa!